Hello, everybody out there in internet land. Welcome to another episode of Fighting the Void. Today, I, Ginger, am joined by a handful of other people, not my usual lovely co-host, Crystal. Today, I am joined by actually a bevy of friends from around the interwebs. And as it turns out, this is actually a full-on papist takeover of Fighting the Void, because we are all either cradle Catholics or converts. Most of us are converts, actually.
Actually, I'm the only cradle in the room.
She's the only cradle in the room. But don't worry. We're actually not here to talk about really anything Catholic, as it turns out. This is just an odd coincidence. We're actually here to talk about Avengers Endgame. And there will be spoilers. I'm going to tell you up front. We're going to go deep on this thing. So if you haven't seen the movie, if you're one of like the 10 people on the planet that hasn't seen this movie yet,
yeah, the only review,
and you don't want to know anything, and you do actually plan on seeing it, just stop now, because we will ruin the movie for you. Fair warning. Okay.
Yep.
Now,
and I want to say too, for anyone who's listening who hasn't seen it, I was cynical. I didn't think that they could match what they had done or up the stakes. I was proved wrong.
You were wrong. You were very wrong. But now, let me finish with the introductions here a minute. Now, the two ladies here. This the one with I don't know how to describe your hair, Alyssa. It's different than the last time I saw you.
It's a podcast, so I don't think that's
top model.
Well, we're on YouTube. Yes, the one with the top model hair. We'll go with that. I like that, Monique. That's how shall we call? How shall I refer to you? We are on the interwebs.
You can call me Alyssa. I go by ARK Watson online.
Okay. Alyssa and Monique, they are both co-founders of the Catholic Reads website, which basically seeks out and promotes quality Catholic books, both contemporary and in the past, focusing though on contemporary. We've done a bunch of reviews on guys that I've actually had people that I've read their stuff for Catholic Reads on this podcast, actually, in the past. Brian Niemeyer, most particularly. And then Steve over here. Steve and I go way back, all the way back to covering things relating to Middle-earth and Lord of the Rings. But today, Steve hangs his hat over at StarWarsReporter.com. So, Steve, may the 4th be with you.
and
with
happy
your
Star Wars Day.
And we're not going to talk about Star Wars hardly at all. We're talking about Endgame. All right. So, initial impressions. Alyssa, you started, so go.
Yeah. So as soon as they cut Thanos' head off, I was like, okay, I don't know what's gonna happen. This is great, and we're good. And it just got better from there. We can break down the character reactions of each of them to what they did to all the different characters. But that was my initial reaction.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Monique, initial impressions.
Well, I heard a lot of different things going around the internet, but I was just like, okay, I'm just going to go into it as, blank slate as possible. And I didn't know what to expect. And I had no idea where things were going to go. And I was pleasantly surprised. And I'm just happy that I didn't leave the theater a sobbing mess.
It was hard sometimes.
I'm not going to lie. My eyes might have got a little watery at a couple of scenes. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I nearly cried. My brother actually did, but I wasn't a sobbing mess like last time.
Steve, your initial impressions.
It, like someone else had said already, I wasn't sure if they'd be able to top Infinity Wars, because I just love Thanos in that in the movie. They did him so well. I was like, I am almost rooting for the bad guy in this movie. That's how well he was made. And just everything was so perfect about it, and how they actually changed it from the comic and tried to make him more of a I guess in the comic it was different. He was trying to impress. He was trying to impress Lady Death, or literally, he was trying to impress a girl. Whereas in this one, he thought he was doing something good for the universe. So it was like good intentions, bad execution. But I was amazed. I was amazed. It was a really good movie, and There was tears from my. I went with my oldest. Tears from my oldest as soon as Spider-Man showed back up, because since Infinity Wars, she's been upset about Mr. Stark. I don't feel so good.
Well, he's the baby of the franchise.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He is one of the
Eric,
recent.
what do you think?
Oh my gosh. I was so looking forward to this movie. I have been a comic nerd since my freshman year of high school. So this is going back a ways. I have been reading comic books and involved with these characters for 30 years. Or darn close to it. And first of all, just going all the way back to Iron Man 10 years ago now, when the first time you saw him on the screen, that in and of itself was really cool. I was with every other nerd on the planet, totally spazzing out when Nick Fury showed up and talked about the name dropped the Avengers Initiative. I would never have guessed that 10 years later we were going to be here. There's no, I mean, I would have been at that time. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to get an Avengers movie. Right there, I was like, I'm good. Once that happens, I can die a happy man. And then at the end credit scene for Avengers, the mid credit scene, you see Thanos, and I'm like, I know what they're gonna do. and just to see the way that they pulled that off it just blew. It blew my mind. There were a couple of parts in it that definitely made me roll my eyes. I'm like, oh no, you went out of your way to do that, huh? Okay, but those are relatively small quibbles, and I thoroughly enjoyed at least 90, 95, okay, 98% of the movie. I thought was
99.9% of it.
What's that?
How about 99.9% of it? Like in the
not quite that much, because there were a few things that definitely rubbed me the wrong way. Most of them having to do with Captain Marvel, because I hate that character so much. Really do. Well, she's so arrogant. She's and not like in that playful way. Like I'm just having fun doing. I'm super smart, and I know, and yes, I know I'm smarter than everybody else, and I do want you to know it. But I'm mostly just having fun with it, way that Tony Stark is. He's just going through life doing. I can do this cool thing. I'm going to do this cool thing over here.
Here's the thing, Eric. I've never liked Iron Man. I disliked him least. With Robert Downey Jr. playing him, but I've never liked Iron Man for the exact same reason. And I completely understand if you don't like Marvel for the exact same reason. With Marvel, I'm completely aware that it is pandering specifically to me, and I am enjoying it. I'm just like, all right, roll over. Yes,
I highly respect Iron Man.
But I get it.
He was never like in my favorites, but after this, I want to just salute him. And if I see Robert Downey Jr. in real life, I will. But for me, I'm also in the pandering Captain Marvel thing, especially like when you consider that part where like she comes in. Can we talk about that part in Act 3?
Yes, let's talk about the fact they made her so OP that she had to disappear for 90% of the movie.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that they missed the mark on that. They kind of went overboard because they're getting into phase 4 where they're bringing in the Eternals, and so they had to actually make her so much more powerful to fit her in from stuff that I was reading. And I think it's just overdone. And one of the interviews with Scarlett Johansson, they were it was like one of these questionnaire things where the celebrities had to read a question and see if they knew the answer, an Avengers question, and it was like, what powers does Miss Marvel have, or Captain Marvel, sorry? And Scarlett Johansson's like, well, I think she has all of them, and just threw it. And there was like a couple of the actors that made kind of digs like that, sideways digs at the fact that Captain Marvel has every power. There was really no need for anyone else to be there. But Eric's right. They needed her to leave so that other people, but
Yeah,
So that
she's
other people
definitely
can
the
have something to do.
Superman, Superwoman.
Well, see, I
of
don't want to
Marvel,
and here that's the obvious
and
comparison.
has problems.
And I'm gonna make a sharp distinction between, and after this we can follow up on this quickly, but I don't want to spend the whole time complaining about Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
I could, but I don't want to. Sharp distinction between Captain Marvel and Superman. All right. Yes, they are both incredibly overpowered, and you could make exactly the same claim about Superman. He has every superpower. There's a big difference. Superman, and honestly, the guys over at Screw Attack, they put it best. Superman is the story of a god trying to live as a man, trying to stay grounded, trying to be a normal person and not hold himself up over everybody else. He actually holds himself back constantly so that other people have room to act and be who they are. Captain Marvel, so far, from what I can see, is incredibly arrogant, genuinely thinks she's better than everybody else, only because she's more powerful.
Well, no.
And I haven't seen her here's the thing, and she needs to get slapped down at some point.
Okay, so I gotta slap you down there, because she doesn't think she's better than everyone else because she needs a slap down. She thinks she's better than everyone else because before she was a hero, she was constantly getting slapped down, and that was the only way.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I think what they're setting it up for is they're setting it. They kind of, this was the end of an era for the original Avengers team, and they're setting up a new Avengers team with new personality flaws and new issues. And like I said, I didn't like Tony Stark at the beginning of the series, but I liked him at the end. They did that arc well, and I think they're going to set up Marvel for that same.
I hope
pride
so.
to humility arc.
I hope so, because you can make the same comparison as with Thor, but right away in the very first movie, right away in the first movie he was humbled. He had to learn humility. That was the whole point.
Yeah,
of the
but he had a
Thor.
whole movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Well, so did Captain Marvel.
Now,
Also
Captain Marvel, I never watched it.
I
I haven't seen the movie. But I watched a review where they were talking about the fact that there was no hardship for Captain Marvel. She just got her powers, and through the movie, there wasn't anything that was, there wasn't any threat throughout the entire movie. Now, I didn't see the film, so
that's I would
ish. I think that exaggerates.
Like,
please?
Like, I think right now she's just supposed to be held as this kind of ideal, which is why we kind of might see her as coming off as arrogant. But within their universe, they don't really know her, and she might come off in different ways to different people. But what I liked is, like, in Act 3, when Peter Parker was just crying for help, Captain Marvel comes in, and she's really good with. In her movie, she established that she's good with kids, and I could already see the hearts in Peter's eyes, and because he's like awestruck, and he's like, "Wow, this is like this really powerful lady," and she's coming to my help, and there's all these other ladies, and even though she's OP, she doesn't like shoo off all the other women. All the ladies just come to her.
I'm sorry. That brings up one of my other few problems with the movie: the fact that they went out of their way to do that incredibly pandering scene.
I didn't care if it was pandering. I loved it.
It was pandering, and it was a great looking shot.
Scenes.
What's that?
And I didn't mind those either. I mean, there's a line. There's definitely a line, but pandering happens because it kind of works.
It worked. It worked for me because I wanted the women to all group up all together and have their own faction in the battle against Thanos. I loved it. Okay.
And I'll be honest. I don't know why. Because it's so to me, that stuff is so utterly self-conscious. See, before everybody plays, it was always all been before, but nobody thought about it. It was just what was done. And now it's you're setting up this other thing that's so self-conscious, and we're all supposed to react to it a certain way, and that's why people don't like that sort of thing, because you're getting your face rubbed in it. Now that scene before that, at the beginning of that massive battle, where all the heroes were coming up, men, women, wizards, robots, everybody. That was a beautiful scene. That was
everyone applauded.
Everybody shows up and it's like, yeah, go, and it's everybody, and it's great. And don't get me wrong, the female Avengers assembling was a great shot. Visually, it was a stunning shot. There's no doubt about it. And I can understand going a little bit of go girls sort of thing, but getting beyond that initial thing, it's like, oh brother, come on.
Yeah. I mean, it is.
I don't know.
Not arguing with that.
But honestly, those are about my only two. Those are my two most significant issues with the movie. Was I can't stand Captain Marvel, and on the arrogance thing, it's not just how she comes off. Every shot of her, almost every shot, she's always above everybody and looking down. Like, so somehow she manages to like be floating above everybody and still like looking down her nose at everyone with this like. Well, it's so great that you guys are taking care of your planet, but I have thousands of other planets to take care of, so I don't have time for you little people.
Like I said, I completely understand why people don't like it, and I don't care.
That's fair. That's perfectly fair. That's perfectly fair. You're like, you know what? I get it. I know you don't like it. I know why. But I'm good with it, so that's fine.
Yeah. I think the entire actor was like,
if they do this like continuously for other movies, I can easily see myself changing gears, right? Because there is a tolerance level, and people are going to have different tolerance levels.
Yeah, and there is a certain point where, like, I brought up Tony. His shtick was getting old for me in Iron Man 3.
Yeah,
I was like, can we drop it a little bit? Let's move on.
Well, like, I think Tony had the most character development overall. Like, putting aside Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3, it's not obvious, but he changes. He just roll in Infinity War. He just rolls with the fact that he's on an entirely different planet with a kid who worships him and people he doesn't really know. And there's all these different quirks, and he just rolls with it. Whereas past Tony would just try to boss everyone around. I know it.
Yeah, let's talk about the character changes. Let's
go.
Steve. So Tony was the obvious one with that huge freaking redemption arc at the end.
Massive.
God, like I kind of had that feeling in my heart. Like I knew since Infinity War that my only theory ever since Infinity War trailer came out was that the original 6 Avengers would die. That was like my greatest fear.
Yeah, I knew that wasn't gonna happen.
Well, like
It
kind of came to an end in Endgame. I had that sinking feeling that Tony would die in this one.
Yeah, for me it was when he was talking to his dad, and his dad says, "I just hope my kid's not like me," and he's like, "Would that be so bad?" And his dad says, "Well, usually the greater good doesn't go above my personal interest."
Self-interest, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was
he
like,
really did become his father.
Stop saying it. Stop foreshadowing.
He kind of did become his father.
Yeah.
Like,
what'd you think, Steve, of Tony's arc?
I liked it. I kind of figured that he wasn't just going to leave, like the actor, that it wasn't going to end well for Tony in some way. As soon as he was doing it was almost like he was having a flashback, where you see your whole life flash before you, and this was kind of his opportunity. And I did like how he kind of, being how long he was supposed to be 20 days or something in space without food or water or something like this.
No, not that. He was in space for 20 something days.
Right.
They had food and water, but it was running out.
But he
he
was in rough shape. I like the fact that he wasn't cool Tony anymore. He was upset, beaten down Tony. Then he disappears and lives in a cabin. And and then meeting his father and taking that kind of attitude for a sacrifice.
This
good.
was this was the most emotionally vulnerable we've ever seen him.
Oh yeah, I agree. His arc was great, and Steve, you brought up him, being in the cabin. He's with Pepper. They have a daughter. I was like, what? It's just like, oh my gosh, he has a kid. And it's like, it's a daughter. I was like,
yeah, that was a great stakes choice from a writing perspective. To have a 5-year-old daughter, and it's been 5 years since Thanos. I was like, oh, I can't even. How are they? What?
Right. Now they
felt like a setup to me for future Iron Man.
Oh my God, I cannot. Can you imagine like a second generation Avengers of like young Avengers or something like that with Morgan and Cassie and Peter and
I could see
and Hawkeye's like kids and
well, they set up Hawkeye's daughter.
They did.
Yeah,
she was shooting. That was the first scene, I think, and I'm like,
he even called her Hawkeye.
That's going to be Hawkeye 20 years from now, or whatever it is, 10 years or something.
Now,
and Iron Man 10 years from now.
Yeah, once they get old enough to actually, get their super suits and everything. I'm like, my only nitpick is that I hate that they aged Cassie up. I liked her actress in Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I mean,
I really hate that they.
It's been 5 years. She was like 10, so she'd be 15.
Well, yeah, but like, couldn't they have snapped her and then brought her back? I hate saying that, but like, I liked her original actress in both the Ant-Man movies.
Yeah.
The kid, and I didn't mind having to wait for her to grow up because she already looked like once she got older she could fill in her dad's shoes.
Right. Now, where I thought at first they were going to go with Tony's daughter was, and we already knew at that point that time travel was going to be how they were going to fix this thing, right? At first I was like, oh, see, Thanos kind of sacrificed his daughter to get the Soul Stone so he could kill everybody. Yeah. Tony's gonna have to not quite so directly, but metaphorically sacrifice his daughter by going back in time to save everybody. I thought that's what they were gonna go. They were gonna go with like this parallel thing, this parallel sacrifice. But in a way, I'm glad they didn't do that because it was like the most obvious way for them to go. Right. I'm kind of glad, and I still stayed before this about 99% review free. Like, I haven't listened to a whole review on the movie yet, but I've caught a few bits and pieces. And I have heard people complain about that's kind of where they should have gone. I'm like, no, that's obvious.
The complaint is mostly about the fact
that you just know any other movie, that's exactly where they would go because it's the obvious way to go. And so, and in a way, Tony did still wind up sacrificing his family, but he sacrificed his experience being able to stay alive and live with his family when he effectively killed himself by taking on the Infinity Gauntlet, or his own Infinity Gauntlet, which is awesome. As soon as he grabbed onto Thanos, I was like, wait a minute, he built that gauntlet. He's got him. Right. He's got the stone. Yep,
I wasn't sure what was going on. I was just kind of caught up in the moment. But mostly people were complaining about, I think the reason people were complaining that it wasn't Tony, but because they are still sad that Black Widow had to be the one to make that sacrifice.
Right.
But the parallel is there because in the beginning, when Hawkeye became Ronin, he said that he's basically finishing what Thanos started with all the criminals. He became essentially the Punisher.
A mirror
of Thanos. Yeah. He said, they had Thanos, you have me. And so they had this familial relationship. They never were like a romantic thing, but they still were close enough that the Soul Stone saw Black Widow's sacrifice as a legit thing. And I hate that she died, but it kind of makes sense for her because she has spent most of her life killing people. And she said that, she had so much red in her ledger. Ultimately, sacrificing herself was what could have balanced it out.
What do you think of Black Widow, Steve?
Well, I think the big thing for her was her and Hawkeye were such good friends.
Yeah.
And her reason was, I'm alone. I don't have anyone. You have a family. Like, you have to be with your family. And it kind of, it made sense to me. If that was me, if I was her,
Mhm.
and running for that cliff to dive off, it would make way more sense. It wouldn't be awesome, but it would make more sense. And I thought that was, from the earlier movie, she was that very serious assassin.
Mhm.
And then when this all happened, like, everyone changed, where
Yeah.
she was trying to keep everything together. She was trying to be that, that home base point. It was really
Mhm.
affecting her, right? Like, you saw her with more emotions than I've ever seen her in
Yeah.
the films.
Yep.
The only other emotion I saw her have was when she was afraid of the Hulk.
Right.
But other than that, she was
Well,
just like on
Don't forget
point.
the times where she was like joking with Steve, and they had that camaraderie in the Captain America movies.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
I feel like in a way I feel disappointed, but I also understand. I feel like Black Widow was the least developed of the characters. And
Yes.
I wish we could have had a Black Widow movie, but having gone in and read some Black Widow comics, I understand why. Like, it's a really convoluted story, and
Yeah.
it
They
would have
didn't
required
really.
so much rework. And
Yeah.
honestly, I didn't really like Black Widow in the comics until Scarlett Johansson played her, and the way she played her, I think, created that character more than any other writer was really able to capture
Mhm.
or take
and
advantage
besides,
of. It's a shame, but I get it.
They never really did
besides
a
that,
comic
I have my.
accurate. They didn't do a comic accurate adaptation of her anyway, because in the comic she's actually had a version of the super soldier serum. She's been around for a very, very long time, and
Oh,
so on.
so that explains how she knows the Winter Soldier then. Okay. Besides that, this is just my break the tension joke, but I already know what happened with what happened in Budapest with Hawkeye and Scarlett Johansson, with Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Black Widow.
They were fighting vampires. They were fighting Angelus and Darla because Angelus and Darla were also in Budapest.
Maybe.
What were you going to say, Eric?
Oh, just not a whole lot. But I would point out there's actually no reason we can't have a Black Widow solo movie. It just has to be obviously take place before.
Well, they are making one. It's going to be a
I thought
prequel,
so.
right? It's going to
thought
be a
they were.
prequel in 2020.
Obviously, they can only make so many of these. It'll be a one-off deal.
It's just a one-off. It's a prequel. It's one.
Yeah, it'll be like
Okay.
here you guys
Sweet.
go. Here's your solo Black Widow movie that you've been clamoring for the last 8 years.
Awesome.
And hopefully it's good. I really want to see that movie and actually give, like you said, Scarlett Johansson a chance to actually spread her wings a little bit.
Right.
And
Also,
let's see what they can
Are you sure that
really do with that character.
I'm hoping it's still Scarlett Johansson, but
It will be.
I guess it's just the end credits that kind of threw me off, because I know the end credits seem like that final send off to everybody that's been in this franchise. I know that there's going to be
Well,
Spider-
let's get to that. But can we talk about the Hulk next? Because
Yes,
he showed
that
up
was
used. I was like, there is no way he's going to stay that way by the end of the movie.
No, Steve, has the most Hulk-like part of our panel here. What were your thoughts on what they did with Banner Hulk?
The Hulk, I started to really, really love the Hulk
Mhm.
in Thor Ragnarok. I loved that version of Hulk.
Mhm.
And what they did is they kind of turned him into Professor Hulk. I guess that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that the character needed to progress from this animal Hulk smash, and do more. And they did that in Thor Ragnarok. I was shocked. I was like, wow, this is exactly what I want to see. And him and Thor together were amazing and funny. But I think maybe it was too far. I think it would be great if the Hulk, now that he's permanently the Hulk, and I'm fine with that. I just thought this going between, Bruce Banner and the Hulk was just too much. Just because in the comic, I know that he combined at some point or whatever.
Yeah,
He's
gone
too
back
much
and
of a
forth
professor.
between that
He's
way.
They did that, like, I think the whole Professor Hulk thing was kind of a mini shout out to Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, because that's basically what they did in the animated series, which is like the best animated version of Avengers that I heard of so far.
Agreed. It's very good.
If they could get Hulk back, if they ever do another Hulk, to the Ragnarok one from the Thor movie, that would be great. But I did mind this one. I wish he was more savage and not so much Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
It would have been better.
Yeah,
I think if they just balance the whole Professor Hulk thing and then he kind of gives in to the whole savage thing in battle, that would be a better balance.
Yeah, and that was my biggest complaint. Well, one, it was just weird. Like, it just felt very, very weird the whole time. I'm like,
you didn't like the Hulk dabbing?
What's that?
You didn't like when the Hulk was dabbing? No.
No, that didn't work for me. But at first I was like, oh, cool, they did Professor Hulk, neat. And it's like, it's just weird, especially since you never actually see him. We never see him actually do anything battle wise. Which I'm like, come on, we didn't see the Hulk all Infinity War, really, except for when he gets smacked down by Thanos at the beginning.
Right.
I really wanted to see Hulk come out and just lay the smack down. And I don't care if he looks more like Banner or if he's educating them on the intricacies of gamma radiation as he's doing it. Fine. But I really wanted to see the Hulk come out from underneath that building and just be like, all right, now I'm pissed. And he could have done it just like that, too.
That
would have been fun.
You made me angry.
Okay.
You won't like me when I'm angry. You should have done that line.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
you want to think about the Hulk in Avengers Infinity War. That was very weird, right? The Hulk, he kept trying to get the Hulk to come out, and the Hulk refused to fight Thanos. And I don't think I ever really understood why.
We were all over the place with
I wish they had closed that arc, and I don't think they did.
No, they did not. I agree.
At the same time, as soon as Professor Hulk showed up, I liked it because it meant that the Hulk had something huge to lose, because this is a state that Bruce has been trying to get, like, that's like the angst of his whole arc is keeping this demon at bay. And the fact that that was defeated, I thought that that's what he was going to have to risk by the timeline arc, the time travel arc. But then he didn't. So now I guess they've proven themselves to be good enough writers. Like, I'm not very worried, but I don't really see where he goes from here.
Yeah,
I don't think he goes
I kind
anywhere.
of like that whole Professor Hulk thing because as far as like character development goes, yes, a lot of it was off screen, but I like that he was finally at the point where he felt that the public felt safe around him and he was adored by the public. And
So do you think that the Hulk will be a part of the new Avengers lineup, or do you think he'll just be like a side
He'll
character?
just be a supporting role, honestly, because if they ever do that whole Avengers, the next generation thing, he'll definitely be more of the mentor, like alongside, Falcon and Valkyrie and whoever else is left.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I think his role became kind of less when in previous films it was always, we have a Hulk, and he was like a whole army.
Right.
And then obviously in the Infinity
I
War,
think it's a matter of him getting lost in the shuffle of everyone else, because I think this is just me observing the whole MCU, like even within the focus of the character arcs in the whole MCU was centric on the main if DC has their Trinity, MCU has their Trinity. It's Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. Though that's their Trinity.
Yeah.
Right.
And those three are the ones that got the most character development.
Yeah.
So Hulk kind of got lost in the shuffle because
and with the exception of Ragnarok, his role in the MCU has gotten smaller and smaller as time has gone on. And in a sense, I'm okay with it because I've never been a huge fan of the Hulk for the simple reason that there's not much you can do with him.
Mhm.
Eventually,
It's a Jekyll and Hyde.
yeah, eventually that gets old. It's like I get angry, I throw stuff around, and then apparently I burn it off and I turn back into normal little guy, and that's that. But yeah,
It's kind of hard, especially when
it's
all
still,
the actors want their face to be seen.
right.
So you have Spider-Man landing down, get ready for a fight, but he's got to take his mask off to talk to you and then put it back on because the
Yeah.
actor wants FaceTime, right? So it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to sell when it's mostly CGI and
Yeah,
the actor just wants to be shown.
That kind of thing gets a little ridiculous. Like brief tangent when War Machine and Nebula, they're going after the Power Stone, and he's like, okay, hey, it's called the Temple of the Power Stone. This is like when spikes with skeletons and stuff pop out, and there's going to be booby traps and everything, and he walks in without his helmet on.
Because they can't talk
I just
with
wanted
this.
to grab and be like,
okay. Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
I was kind of distracted by the fact that, it's Star-Lord in his own head and he's dancing along to the music, and I remember how I felt when I first watched that scene. But to them, it's totally ridiculous because it's just a guy singing along to his Walkman, so they don't hear the music.
Yeah,
that is exactly what happens when you have a music video in your own head. Oh my God.
So,
but in any case, what I wanted to wrap up with the Hulk was just that at the end of the day, I do think they missed a huge opportunity. They should have had that scene where he comes out from under the building, and just, you don't need much. You just need him with one scene at least, with him just tearing through stuff. And there should have been that scene where it's like, all right, you've made me angry, you won't like me angry, and then he just goes in and just starts laying waste to. He should have like.
I mean, that element of his character had already gotten old to me, but that's why I like Thor Ragnarok, because it wasn't so much "you've made me angry." It was like, "Hey, I'm a big guy and I'm having fun with my guy."
Effectively going to, if he's effectively done and is going to be a mentor, which I think you're right about that. They should have given him this last epic battle moment. One, just to show that, yes, he still does in fact really have the Hulk in him, as opposed to just looking like the Hulk. He's still got that in him, but it's under control. And I mean, for crying out loud, we got Giant Man punching one of those flying doohickeys, which was, I love that.
Oh, Scott Lang. Scott.
Yeah! And I'm like, that was great.
This is the thing, right? He was the OP character, and now they've got Marvel to be the OP character.
And Wanda. Don't forget Wanda.
Characters all at once.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Do not forget Wanda, though. But Scott Lang, oh, bless your heart, Scott Lang, the only normal man, relatively speaking, within this whole sea of crazy. Poor baby.
He's like a normal. He's not a genius. He has no powers in and of himself. He's just a guy who happened to steal a suit, and that's about it.
And he's never experienced any aliens or,
He's not even military trained like Falcon.
Nope. Oh, poor baby. Oh, my poor baby.
Really, the other closest to normal guy.
Do you think he'll be part of the main core of the new Avengers?
That's all he's got.
Yeah, but that's why everybody loves him. Do you think he'll be part of the main core?
If they go for like an Avengers version of Young Justice, I can see him kind of being like that home base. Okay, this is like he's going to. I can kind of see him being that sense of normal that everyone kind of is like, oh yeah, like in spite of all the aliens and whatever else we're fighting, we still have this place to go back to, and he can keep them grounded. I see him as that person who kind of keeps them grounded.
Oh yeah. I think that's true. Now,
especially since he has so much experience with kids anyway.
Yeah, we've got two more. This is the way we've been going. We've got two more original Avengers arcs to go. We're gonna save the best for last, though. So Thor.
No, Thor's
That
the
was
best.
my
Come
favorite.
on.
You know,
I
I
love
saved-
that
I
so
saved the
much.
best for last, and we've got two
Get
more.
me to a gym, Thor. Get your abs back.
Okay, this was my favorite part because when they were going to go see Thor, I'm there with my 14-year-old daughter. Okay, so what is the trademark for every time you see Chris Hemsworth on screen? He's
No
without a
shirt,
yeah.
abs.
Okay. So even I'm blushing. So
That's what it is.
so there's Thor. Oh, Thor! He's getting up out of the chair, and then he turns around. And I just burst out laughing. My daughter was like, "What?"
Oh my gosh, it looks like he's 4 months along.
And all I could do was think. I was like, "The Big Lebowski." That is awesome, and that's what they were doing apparently.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, he's wearing his clothes, and he
They
was
even called him that.
Yes, I know.
Like,
now Hemsworth. I understand that Hemsworth is so good at comedy. You know, with Thor Ragnarok,
Good at it.
Guardians of the Galaxy, all that kind of stuff. He's so funny.
oh my god, I
I
cannot
think
wait.
that it must have been a relief for him to be able to wear the fat suit and just not because he can act. And it's like, okay, Chris, when I say action, you need to take your shirt off and really flex hard your stomach before you start saving everyone. Okay, you know, I can act. Yeah. Got it. But I need you to take your shirt off. So now he's got the fat suit on. You got to see him do stuff.
Yeah.
And then he was emotional when he met his mom and blah, blah, blah. It
Mhm.
was like, see, he can act. And the thing I'm most happy about is now I have an easy cosplay at a next convention. So
That's gonna be the
I
number
just need a
one
wig.
costume
Best
of
comment
Halloween.
ever, Steve.
I just
I'm
need
sorry.
a wig,
I'm
a
sorry.
cardigan, pajama pants, and a Thor's hammer, and I'm good to go. And some glasses.
I get it. He has the dad bod now, but like, I am sorry. I'm going to sound like the most vapid, superficial. I'm sorry in advance because I'm usually not like this, okay? And I'm sorry if I sound like I'm fat shaming. But it's like,
abs.
I have a.
Let's be honest. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, I get that why he let himself go,
Mhm.
but it's still not a healthy coping. Like, he's doing a lot better than I think a lot of people would if they were in his place. But
You want
At
to see
some
more out
point-
of your heroes?
at some point, he needs to get himself to an Alcoholics Anonymous. You know,
I
lay off
thought
the
it was
beer for a while,
weird.
get thee to a gym, eat a salad like his mom said, because he has to get back up at some point. And I think he's going to do that with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
He needs to get his groove back.
It didn't make
Yeah.
sense to me because isn't he supposed to be a god who's 1,500 years old? I thought at some point when he got it together and he got the hammer and when he started
Yeah.
blasting electricity to be some magic where now he's handsome Thor again.
Lightning
But it's
gave
like,
me abs.
So these
the whole lightning
immortals
gave
can
me
just-
abs thing. Oh my god. Sorry,
So
I'm quoting like
this-
a flash meme.
Yeah, this was my favorite arc of the series of
Yes.
the movie. Thor was kind of boring to me. When I first saw his movies, like I really liked liked the world, but they'd usually end up on Earth, and I was like, I didn't care after that. Ragnarok was amazing.
Yeah.
And I like that he's not the beefcake right now, but he doesn't fully realize that he's not the beefcake. Because that interaction between him and Star-Lord at the very end, like, I love that. Like, I love the fact that when they first met, he's the beefcake, and all the, like, Gamora was checking him out, and Peter was super intimidated. And now, like,
It was funny.
Peter
And now Chris has,
okay, Peter could totally take him, but neither of them have realized it yet. And I'm so looking forward to that moment when they both do, and it's going to be fantastic.
I
And I don't know that Thor's going to stay with the Guardians team or not. Like, that friction might be too much, and they may split, but it's going to be awesome to watch.
I almost
I'm
think
with Mantis here. I want to see them fight. I want to, like,
get the
want.
knives.
I think
Yes!
Thor would absolutely destroy Peter Quill.
Oh yeah.
I love the
I don't
character.
care.
But
I just want.
No,
I
I
don't
mean, not necessarily in fighting power, but like Peter's got it together more than Thor now.
yeah, for
He
sure.
does, and
And
they both lost.
in the maturity level.
Yeah,
Roll
doofus
for-
persona aside, Peter's actually really smart.
Yeah.
Yep.
If
And he,
yeah,
I think he. Oh yeah, that's the other thing they need to address in Guardian 3. Peter also needs to get his groove back and redeem himself from, like everyone a lot of people have been giving Peter way too much flack for basically causing the end of the universe, but
Well.
I don't blame, like I said before, I don't blame him for being emotionally caught up.
Yeah.
He's not, I don't know how anyone else could hold themselves together at that point.
Okay,
You
before
know?
we go to Peter, Eric, did you have anything you wanted to say about Thor?
Thor. I think Thor is the crux of one of the criticisms I've seen of the movie, where there's people out there saying they did the original Avengers wrong, essentially, and I think Thor is the biggest basis of that, and I disagree, because it's you've all basically hinted at, it's like Thor's been through a lot, but let's not forget he's been through more than just failing to stop Thanos. Right before Thanos, he got his butt kicked by Thanos, and right before that, he lost his entire planet.
Yeah.
It went kablooey. That's why the movie's flipping called Ragnarok. It was the end of his world, people. Yeah. And then he was king for like 5 minutes before Thanos shows up, obliterates what's left of the Asgardians,
and
kicks his butt, kills his brother that he's finally reconciled with before his eyes, kills one of his best friends, Heimdall, right before his eyes, because Idris Elba was costing too much money. And
another beefcake.
Yeah, right. and yeah, and then he almost one-shot Thanos, almost. And then they track him down, and yeah, he cuts off his head, but he knows there's no redemption. There's no way that he can. There's no more. There's just the fight's gone out of him. I fought as hard as I could. I did everything I can, and I have lost everything. My parents are dead. My brother's dead. My world is dead. My people are gone. Yeah, he's been through a freaking lot. And let's not forget, yeah, we started off thinking Thor, God of Thunder, but they've well established that they're just a very powerful alien race. So they're not up here in terms of how they deal with things necessarily. They're just
my poor baby.
They're people.
My poor baby.
And the way they dealt with him, especially yes, having him go Lebowski Thor. Now, if they had done that right after Thor 2, I would not have bought it. I wouldn't have gone there. I would have gone with him, losing it, but it would have been like him being a hermit in a cave or something like that, as opposed to a drunken hermit playing Xbox with Korg and whatever that other thing is. But they did Ragnarok right before Infinity War. So, and the way that they did his character and everything in that, and they introduced a little bit of more of the camp and the humor with characters like Korg, then it fits.
I just think that, speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy 3,
I don't
think Thor is going to be in. Maybe he
is. I guarantee it.
If he is, and I think it's because they saw the opportunity from the previous film with the interaction in those couple of scenes, that there's an opportunity for a really good film. It works so well with Hulk and Thor. It's going to work a million times better with Peter Quill and Thor. So yeah,
I guess we'll just have to see what happens, because like I said, the only thing we know for sure about Guardians 3 is that it's going to be like the search for Gamora, and maybe along the way, hopefully, both Peter Quill and Thor will get their groove back.
Yeah, what
I don't want Thor to get in shape.
Where did she go?
What's that?
Were you guys talking about Peter while I dropped?
No, mostly just wrapping up about Thor and everything.
I hope
Um,
Thor stays the way he is. Just
Well,
I do want him to get his groove back. But
Yeah.
here's the question: before we go on to Captain America, what happened to Gamora?
So what happened
Where'd
to
she go?
Gamora was that the Gamora we knew died.
Well, I know
The
that.
Gamora from the past, before she had any of her character changes, jumped ship in time and is now
Right.
in
Yeah.
the
No,
current.
I
And it
understood.
doesn't make sense. You're right.
No. I've understood all that.
And I
But
think that's
he's got the
status.
searching for Gamora thing up on the ship. Like, where did she go after the battle?
Well, she went with her sister because she doesn't know any of these people.
Yeah.
She's
Fair. That's
Gamora,
probably
as we
what
saw her
happened.
in the very first scene of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
that is her. What happens to her is
Mm-hmm.
probably the saddest thing for me in the movie.
Mhm. Yeah.
That, like, falling in love with someone and then dying in front and then not being able to save them, and then they get back, but they don't love you back. In fact, they kind of think you're an idiot and you've done all this maturing and growing,
Yep.
and she's not there at all. Like, that sucks. But
Yeah.
I'm also really looking forward to that because now people have been complaining about not seeing the mature side of Peter. This is the step up moment. This is where he goes after his lady and he shows us how mature he is.
Just as long as Thor and Peter don't fight over Gamora, okay? No, thank you.
I mean, don't worry. Thor's got his own issues, his own weight to deal with.
He's going to be in there doing crunches and eating salad.
Yeah.
Unless there's mud wrestling involved, I'm not going to go for it. Or knives. Unless they're fighting with knives or mud wrestling.
I think they might actually be building up bringing Jane back, right? Because he was pining over her quite a bit, and it's been a while since he's done
I thought that was very
I saw
interesting.
Natalie Portman, but I don't know if they're really gonna bring her back because, like, I mean, she had that one guest spot, but I think that was it. I haven't heard anything. I
haven't heard anything, but I haven't been looking. I've been intentionally avoiding in general.
Me too.
It
seemed to me that they axed that whole story arc in Ragnarok. It just seems like they've axed it. They're going to move on.
I would agree that it does seem like they did, but Alyssa did bring up a good point that Thor seems to be pining over much for a character arc that is supposed to be gone. So we'll see.
He lost everyone.
Up to the beer, maybe.
He lost everyone. And the only people alive that really cared about him, that are still alive, is Jane. So, I mean, it makes sense.
It's a very good point.
But maybe it'll be like he goes back to her for a little bit and realizes, okay, that's why it wasn't working. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
We'll see. I'm genuinely curious. I hadn't really considered that they might bring her back, but maybe they will. I mean, let's face it, Natalie Portman isn't doing a ton with her career right now. So,
we'll see.
And she hasn't fallen off the radar by any means.
There was an Annihilation. She was pretty sweet in that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, she hasn't fallen off the radar, but she's not I don't think there's a ton of people wondering what movie she's going to be in next.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a matter of what you said about Idris Elba. They can still afford her, right?
I think so. I think there was a time when maybe they were worried about that, but I'll be honest, I don't think that's the case now.
Okay. So on to Captain, my Captain.
Freaking, yes, Captain freaking America. Oh my gosh! Now I wasn't super thrilled with Cap at the beginning, but he seemed to have been you know what, this is the world as it is now, and he's not completely there, but he's really trying really hard to get there.
Yeah, he's doing a good shot.
Yeah, and to be fair to him and the writers of that arc, you can't kind of justify it because he's kind of a guy who's used to moving on.
He's basically following Sam Wilson's example. He's basically following Sam Wilson's example of trying to move on after, because that whole support group thing, that was what Sam did. And that was his way of honoring Sam's memory.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, good point.
you're right that
Very good.
he's used to moving on,
Yep.
and he's trying to be, Mr. Optimism and be strong
Mhm.
for everyone else, because he literally is like, aside from Tony, he's the emotional center
Yep.
of the whole Avengers team.
Yep. Absolutely. And he had lost Peggy, so he had moved on from her. So he's like, well, here's another loss. I need to figure out how to move on from it. But and again, to defend him, as soon as there was potentially a way to fix things, a way to find Thanos and go get him, he was on board.
Mhm.
He was like,
God
all
bless
right,
him.
let's go.
God
As far as
bless
right
him,
away, yeah. And then
Yeah.
5 years later, after the initial we're gonna go kick Thanos's butt thing didn't ultimately work, 5 years later, he's again, he's trying to move on and everything. But again, as soon as somebody shows up with a potential way, he's all about it. As soon as Scott Lang's at that, as soon as Scott Lang is at that front door, he's ready to scoot back up and go to work.
Oh, God bless him.
That his ending was kind of an emotional contrast to Iron Man's ending.
Yes.
Yep.
And that
Very much so.
he finally got what he deserved.
What he had wanted all those years.
And what he's been consistently throughout multiple movies trying to achieve.
Yep.
And it was just really good, and I'm very happy.
He deserves that happy ending. I don't care if that it's kind of confusing when you think about, once you give a thought and you take into account what the Ancient One said about alternative timelines. He probably had one last Pym particle just to jump back into the original, to give Falcon his shield and to say goodbye. And
he didn't jump. He just aged.
He didn't.
Well, then how do you explain how he? Then how do you explain how he appeared on the bench all of a sudden?
Because he knew what day and what time they would be there.
Yeah.
So on that day and time, he just drove himself to the park and walked.
And no one saw him?
No one was paying any attention.
He's still a trained soldier.
Yeah,
and
he's still Captain freaking America.
Okay, well, whatever the case may be, I'm happy that he got his happy ending.
Yeah. You don't have to be young to be able to sneak. It doesn't require speed.
My question is, he went back and changed, where he hooked up with Peggy.
Yeah.
So what happened to the man she ended up dating that produced the granddaughter?
No. See, they explained.
It was her niece.
All that at the beginning when they said, "Oh, time travel doesn't work the way you think it does." Something. Yes, becomes the future.
I know.
It was very confusing. It was very wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Thank you.
And I was like, you know what? They just said all of that so they could say, you know what? We're just going to do whatever we want. And that was to say there will be no consequences to anything we do with time.
But you know what? I don't think
they were just like, you know what? Words. We don't care.
There's very few time travel stories that I've seen or read that can not have plot holes. So I was fine with that, you know?
The only the closest to a perfect time travel movie is in fact Back to the Future.
No, it's Looper.
I think you might be right, actually. You might be right about that.
I still think Doctor Who, but
incredible.
I'm
no.
I think
Doctor
Looper
Who is not perfect time travel. Doctor Who is wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. We do whatever we want. There are no rules. Bye bye.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's still fun.
It's fun. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's very clear. There are no rules.
Yeah.
We will do what we want. Period.
I know. It's the same with Legends of Tomorrow. I can't help it. I just just go for the ride.
I wouldn't like Doctor Who as much as I do if it did try to make sense all the time. It would lose.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just fun when you just let go and you just go along for the ride. That's why I love Legends of Tomorrow so much.
Yeah. The one thing real quick on this tangent is the one thing that prevents Back to the Future from being a perfect time travel movie is actually the scene when Marvin Berry calls up his cousin Chuck and says, here's your new sound you've been looking for.
Oh.
That's the one thing that breaks it. Otherwise, it is absolutely perfect. But
But
otherwise,
it was just a fun moment. I think it was just a fun moment because
it breaks it just a touch.
Mhm.
It's in this stupid chicken and the egg time loop thing, which I just hate. But
Okay,
anyway,
so
back to
who's the new lineup? Who's the new lineup for the
we're not
new?
talking about Captain America. We cannot talk about this movie without talking about the greatest scene, one of the greatest scenes that has ever graced film, when Captain America gets Mjolnir.
Yes! Everyone, oh my God, everyone applauded. My brother just kind of burst out into like, yes, and I didn't even hear Thor saying anything because everyone was cheering, and I'm like,
I knew it. He said I knew
it. I was like, that's
it made
my
sense.
captain.
Of course, I turned to my daughter and I said, "Of course he's worthy. It's about time this happened," because it was in I forget which film, Age of Ultron, where it kind of made that movement, and I think Thor never really said anything. He just kept looking and that nervous laugh.
Went like,
so I think
he was
it
nervous.
wasn't a shock to him. Yeah, but I don't think it was a shock to him.
Yeah,
when it was all happening.
You get the tiny one. I keep the big one.
Yes, that's right.
I'm just happy that Thor is just embracing the fact that Captain gets Mjolnir. He's just like, yes, because in Age of Ultron he was worried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I think it's just because so much of his self-worth was tied to his hammer. Oh my God, that sounds.
So Captain had his shield and the hammer. I mean, he was.
Oh gosh, he gets that thing and he's just like, yeah, let's go, and just start for about a minute. He's laying the smackdown on Thanos all by himself. I'm like, the whole time I was like, yes.
I actually thought
for this moment.
It's my captain.
This is why I was born to see this.
I did not expect it. I really didn't expect them to come in. That should have been my foreshadowing moment of saying, okay, they're going to retire him now.
Yep.
I actually thought he was going to.
That scene was worth the price of admission to every single Marvel movie that has been made over the last 10 years. If all they did was put that scene up on the screen, I would have worth it. I'm out. Mic drop. Fine.
But all I can say is that's why Captain America is my number one. Oh my God. Oh, Captain, my captain. I just want to recite that whole Walt Whitman poem right now, like just for him.
I actually thought that in the scene, I actually thought that Captain America was going to be killed.
I thought
in the one scene where he's taken the beating from Thanos, and when he finally picks himself up, and they have that wide
I was so
angle
scared of that
scene
too, but
where Captain America's way over here and Thanos is over here, and it felt like those samurai movies, right? Big wide angle. They come in, someone's going to die, and I thought, oh, because I knew that was it for Chris Evans and stuff. Right. So I thought, oh wow, okay, so this is what's going to happen. I was getting ready to die. Yeah, but no.
But then the cavalry came in, Falcon sit on your left, and all the portals open, and it was just like the battle between heaven and earth.
I think if they didn't come, that would have been it for him. I think that was it. That was the last stand.
It would have been. But
can I just say though, as an American, apologies to Steve, seeing that wide angle shot, Captain freaking America standing up alone by himself, beaten, broken against all the forces of darkness gathered against him. I'm like, yeah, go team! Like that move, I was like, frick yeah, let's go, Team America, let's suit up.
See,
that was a America moment right there.
Oh yeah, and some of my international friends were having that. Okay, like. So obvious, super cheesy.
Yeah. I'm totally okay with that pandering. Totally okay with it.
Captain America is pandering
moment.
That's why I use it. Why they use it.
And to be fair, it also completely 100% fits the character.
Oh yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
It's only pandering insofar as, yes, this is, you can obviously see this as symbolism, but it's not pandering because it 100% fits who that character is.
He could do this all
exactly.
day.
Which is why it didn't bother a lot of the international people I've talked to about it. But you know, like, this is honestly the way that I would like America to be introduced to foreign cultures. Like, I think a lot of cultures, that kind of, yeah, us, you know, reaction they had, that their first reaction, when most people, when I've like brought them to the US, it comes off a little fascist to them. When really we mean it in like a super cheesy, almost like very, very self-aware kind of way, the way that people root for their favorite football team, but know that it's just football at the same time. And I don't know, that's that kind of attitude and like willingness to like have that self-humor, but also like get behind.
I'll tell you, as a Canadian,
and be proud of it.
As a foreigner, someone who's not from your country, as a Canadian,
I didn't know that.
Seeing, you know, that American pride, or when I go to the US and all the homes, or a lot of homes in a lot of areas have American flags out front, and you have that pride. I absolutely respect that. And maybe that's because I'm half American, but to me, I see nothing wrong with that, because most countries are like, they celebrate their country once a year. No one really has flags. Like, this is like, there's not homes with Canadian flags hanging out of it. There's not giant respect for the military. No one could care less here about most people are like, oh, the military is just you guys doing stuff. There's not huge pride as much as other countries like to think.
And that's something that I would like to see in other countries. Like, it would not annoy me to like travel to Britain or Ireland or France or the Congo and have flags going and people really excited about, oh, have you tried our version of this cuisine? And like really excited about it. I mean,
can I just say something funny? Like, but this is going to be on a tangent, because this this is going to be a tangent because this isn't relating to anything patriotic. I'm going full on Catholic mode here because I saw this as the last act of Avengers Endgame is a mix of Lord of the Rings and the battle from Revelations. Yeah. Because literally the battle of heaven and hell, good and evil, and Captain America is just like Saint Michael. I kind of like, you know, leading the charge, and when the cavalry comes in, it just, that whole battle scene just felt like Lord of the Rings and Revelations thrown into one.
Oh, that is true. A lot of the Bible is a lot more interesting when you kind of put the perspective of like Sparta over it.
Yeah, honestly, if you could definitely, you that's full on Valley Shadow of the Death there. It's like, yeah,
it was like I just loved it. That was like my Return of the King moment. When instead of like all the ghosts battling and Eowyn slaying the Witch King, I was too young for that. This was my Lord of the Rings moment of, you know, seeing this epic battle. Like, the closest thing I had to this was Narnia, okay? Before this, the closest thing I had to an epic battle was Narnia. I love Narnia, bless your heart, but, you know, that was a long time ago. And all this intent, it just felt like, you know, I didn't even think about patriotism. I just thought of Revelations because of this story I wrote of fanfic where I imagined that battle of Revelation, the battle between the angels and the devils, as the Infinity War, as with Loki being Satan, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah. But oh my gosh, when it goes into, it looks like Captain America is going to have to face down all of these guys all by himself, which of course, you know, isn't going to work out well. You know, but then the cavalry comes in, and that is just, oh my gosh, that is just such a great shot. Everybody coming in.
Like, thank you. I was like, everyone was applauding, and I love Black Panther. I loved that Valkyrie had her flying horse, and the and my baby. Everyone was applauding when Spider-Man came out. I'm like, oh, my baby.
I mean, he's not going to be a baby much longer, honey.
Shut up. He still has the baby face. You watch Orange High School Host Club. You know he's a boy Lolita.
I think give him 2 years and he'll be a contender for Thor.
He's actually pretty legit. If I've seen some different videos on talking about his life. He's it's pretty like he's athletic. He's taken mixed martial arts now.
Yep.
He is the real deal. Like the acrobatics. He's pretty. And he was like such a young kid, and he's already so establised.
And
so he's basically Honey
things.
Senpai.
Yeah.
So he's basically Honey Senpai from Orange High School Host Club.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
No, long story short, babyface boy who can kick ass.
Personality, too different of a personality.
Well, sorry, I just can't help it.
It's a reverse harem anime. It's very light and PG for reverse harem. But
so can I guys just can I confess something about my thought on the ending for Captain America?
Please do.
Yeah, sure.
You know, the old man on the bench giving his shield over.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm trying to look for the words. I thought it was dumb. Sorry. I really, for me, out of the whole movie, even the whole girl power lineup thing that they did, I basically just didn't even know what to think. I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit over it. Like, I understand what they're doing. They're trying to make this really happy ending where he gets Peggy and all this kind of stuff. And I just thought, he's Captain America, man. He's going to be forever. That's what I just kind of thought. And it was just like, oh, he's this old man on a bench now handing his dirty shield over to someone else.
Yeah, I do think, I don't quite like that he was quite so old necessarily because super soldier serum, but you know, I'm a nerd. That's a
hold on. I just forgot 2 things. One, the handing over the shield to Falcon is comics compliant. And 2, about I completely forgot about the Hail Hydra scene.
That was
that
was hilarious.
Thank you, thank you, Russo brothers. Thank you, Russo brothers, for justifying the only scenario where Captain America could say that and get away with it.
Yes,
and then move on to more important topics like Captain America.
I caught that reference too. Now the handing over the shield. Monique, you're of course correct. That is comics accurate. Falcon does briefly become Captain America, but so does Bucky.
Yeah.
Oh come on, they're gonna get their own spin-off.
But they haven't built up Bucky's character. They've had opportunities.
They haven't built up Falcons either. That's the thing.
I feel like they built him up more.
Yeah, he kind of had as much character development.
He's just there. He's there. He's around.
He's the counselor for soldiers trying to
in one movie.
But he did have a lot of character development in that one movie, though. Like Bucky, I get.
And if we're gonna do that, if we're gonna do character development in one movie, so did Bucky in Captain America, and he also has quite a bit of character development in Civil War and Winter Soldier. Regardless of that, now in the comics, Cap and Sam are in fact good friends. They've spent a lot of time together.
Right.
They're buddies. In this, you're kind of meant to read that in because we haven't really seen that on screen. We haven't really seen them hang out and be friends a whole lot, except for a little bit in one movie. And of course, we do know that he does go with Cap's side during Civil War. So, okay, fair. But Bucky is his friend from childhood. He's the one who he went out on double dates with. He's the one, Bucky's the guy who rescued him in the back alley when he got into a fight that he couldn't handle, which was everything. And, there's so many reasons why Bucky's connection to Cap is strong. I mean, for crying out loud, Cap became an international fugitive because he was rescuing Bucky from Iron Man and everybody else. strictly as a character arc, it should have been Bucky.
You make a really good argument. Would you feel differently if Sam is Captain America, but Bucky becomes like the new Black Widow or the new Hawkeye? Like, just because he's not Captain America doesn't mean
he's gonna keep
part
being
of the next generation of Avengers.
He's going to. Now, it's not about him becoming Captain America. It's not even about that necessarily. It's more about he should have been the one to go say hi to go see Cap sitting on the bench. That's more what it's about.
Yeah.
Well, I think Bucky knew. I think Bucky knew what Steve had planned.
I think the writers knew that they had to make Falcon Captain America. Honestly, it's for political correctness, street cred. That's why Falcon is Captain America and not Bucky. That's the real reason.
Well, you two things. One, in Black Panther, they said in either the end of Black Panther or Infinity War, they said that Bucky is tired of war.
Yeah,
correct. Two, we already know that that Falcon and Bucky are going to get their own spinoff anyway. So we're going to just see where things go from there.
Yep.
Because
that's true. That's happening on Disney Plus. But none of that matters to me in the slightest because it should have been Bucky that went to see him on the bench.
Yeah, I guess that.
Strictly as a character thing, his connection to Cap is stronger. Sam should have been the one nodding to him to go. Now, like I said, I understand why they wanted Falcon to be Captain America, and again, it's comics accurate. That's fine. And so, other than having this odd, convoluted three-way conversation, which would have just been awkward, and they again, where they had this three-way heartfelt conversation, and Cap's like, "Hey, Bucky, good to see you, buddy, but I'm giving this to him." That wouldn't. I grant that would not have worked. Well, but they probably could have done it some other way.
What if Bucky had gone to see him? They talk, and maybe Bucky brings up, "So what are you going to do with that shield?" And maybe they decide together to give it to Sam. Like maybe that would have been
good.
Yeah, that would make
cathartic.
Sense.
Yeah, and I would have been much more okay. I would have been 1,000% more okay with that because I expected again for the PC reasons that it was going to be Falcon and not Bucky, and I didn't feel a great need anyway for Bucky to actually be Captain America because I like him as the Winter Soldier. It's like I said, it wasn't about, like I said, it's not about who becomes Captain America, who gets the shield. It's about who goes up to see Cap on that bench.
Okay.
Can I bring up a nitpick for me? And go around to the nitpicks, criticism.
Yeah.
Okay. So when Tony turned down their offer to help them come up with the time travel machine the first time, and they were like, "We're going to go to the next person who's just as smart as Tony." I was like, "Okay, we're going to have Shuri in Wakanda." Yes. And
that's a good point. Honestly,
that is a regret that I have about the series. Is I wanted to see Tony and I wanted to see Shuri in the same room competing and butting heads for just like 5 minutes, and then I'd be good.
That's a very I hadn't thought of that at all actually. And Shuri, did she survive? I'm sorry.
No, she was snapped.
No, she was snapped, I thought.
She was snapped.
Okay, all right. Well, that's fine.
She was snapped.
Okay.
And it sucks because Okoye was the only one left. Otherwise, it would have been like Shuri talking with the other ones.
That makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, here's an intelligent question. Who is smarter? Because in the one scene where Hulk, Tony, and the raccoon are doing stuff together, who is smarter? Is the raccoon smarter than Tony Stark?
I think the raccoon's practical. He's more practical in that practical intelligence, and I think that Tony's the engineer and Bruce is the chemist.
I think Rocket's really good at making stuff that blows up. I don't know that I don't know how much it works beyond that. Tony is pretty much good at everything.
That was one of my favorite parts is when they're looking at that, when the raccoon scares them when they're hoping it doesn't blow up, and he goes boo.
Mhm.
I thought that was really
hilarious.
funny
I love
because
that.
he's such a
Rocket.
jerk. He's
I
such
know.
a jerk.
I just love that Tony's at the point that he's not even fazed by a talking raccoon anymore.
Yeah, I
I
know.
love
I loved Black Widow's remark at the beginning. I was like, I get emails from a talking raccoon.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Nothing surprises me anymore.
Oh, Rocket. That was my other one nitpick. Like, I wanted like a mini Guardians reunion. I understand that they're like in the heat of battle, but like,
Right.
I just wanted like one little moment with
Yeah.
just the Guardians.
Mhm.
I'm really looking forward to the next Guardians movie. I think
Yeah.
that's what I'm most looking forward to.
I
next.
think that's going to be so interesting what they do with that now, especially with Thor almost certainly in the mix and Gamora being a different character than the last time we really saw her. It's going to be really interesting. And you know what? Let's go ahead. We're running way over our normal time, but hey, we're having fun. And
Yeah.
it's what, pray tell, do you guys think is going to go on with Phase 4? What is phase? What is
So,
Phase 4 even?
I think the new lineup is going to be Captain Marvel, Thor, Sam, new Captain America,
Mhm.
and maybe Hulk and Hawkeye, or maybe Bucky and Black Panther.
Yeah. What about Wanda?
Sorry, Wanda? Maybe Wanda. I don't know. Are they giving her own? Who are they giving individual movies to in the future? I bet that will really tell us.
Black Panther, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange.
We know that there's a Guardians 3. So I don't want to speculate on who the new Avengers team is yet. I honestly think that Phase 4, like someone on the internet saying that now that Disney has Fantastic Four, maybe for once in our lifetime we'll finally get a good Fantastic Four movie.
Could happen. I mean,
Miracle,
I just saw last night, you know, almost exactly 24 hours ago, Captain America whooping up on Thanos with his shield and freaking Mjolnir. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's
not putting my money on it.
That's my shot in the dark hope that maybe we'll actually get a good Fantastic Four movie. Because I only heard things. Mostly I'm just looking forward to how Spider-Man progresses as a character. And I'm really sorry that I keep calling him my baby. But
he's great. I mean, I like the Spider-Man. I'm a fan of the Spider-Man. Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man.
He is.
He really is, legitimately.
He's a good young Spider-Man, but I want to see how he is when he gets older.
I'll go to recast and reboot him again.
Oh, shush.
That'd be like 17 times? No. I'm kidding. Anyway, yeah, as far as the lineup, it's hard to say because they're going in they're dropping a lot of signals that they're going to get highly into politically correct social justice stuff with Marvel going forward, which I find concerning, both from a story theme standpoint and just that they're gonna be sacrificing story for that.
Well, as long as they don't go the direction of Supergirl and ripping from the headlines.
Honestly, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. But I think we're going to see a lot of Supergirl type shenanigans in the MCU going forward. But but aside from that, we've got Captain Marvel, so we've got definite cosmic stuff going on. Because I don't think she's going to be an Avenger. She's too OP. They got to keep her away from Earth. Basically, she will be a cosmic character.
Yeah.
She might come back for things having to do with things like the Eternals or whatnot. Some other massive mega threat that only she can she can give them the edge over something like that.
Right.
But for the most part, she's going to stay out in space. In fact, I honestly don't expect to see over much of her, simply because they have made her so freaking OP. Anytime she comes in, she's like, "Yep, well, movie's over. I'm out." And unless they come up with really weird and convoluted ways to nerf her, because
And,
again,
you know, they might.
she doesn't have a kryptonite.
I
As far
can
as we
think
know,
of
anyway.
ways to write some kryptonite into her.
I mean, there's eventually, if they want to use her a lot, they're going to have to do something like that. I mean, even with Superman, they did more than just a kryptonite. Eventually, they made it like, well, he's not really invulnerable to magic. If somebody uses magic against him, it's going to hurt.
Or time, or like mental tricks. Yeah.
Right. Well, depending on your version of Superman, actually, the mental tricks don't affect him either.
Okay.
I almost forgot to mention, since we're talking about Captain Marvel, I'm hoping at some point in Phase 4 there will be Kamala Khan. I want at least like a TV series in the same.
I can see her showing up in the new Spider-Man, like as one of his classmates. That would be awesome.
That would be so.
I think that would work.
And she's technically like a Inhuman, or
yeah, she's an Inhuman.
I don't know much about her. Again, she's a character that, just like Captain Marvel, they've rebooted her comic like 6 times in the last 3.5 years.
She's like a very grounded character, like in the same way that Ant-Man's the normal guy among all the superheroes. Kamala Khan was like a normal chick who wrote fan fiction about Avengers before.
That's kind of cool.
It would be so hilarious. Wouldn't it be hilarious if Kamala Khan does show up and crosses over with Spider-Man, they might become a ship? Because Captain Marvel and Spider-Man did go out once.
But I really like the way they write friendships in this series.
Yes.
And I would be just happy to see a good friendship.
Yeah, I would go either way. Yeah. I'm just talking as a professional shipper here.
But Kamala's pretty sheltered. Like, I don't think, even if she and Peter liked each other, it would be really flirty and really innocent.
And I would be all for that. I just like the idea, because like I remember reading like this Kamala Khan panel where she crosses over with Spider-Man and she fangirls over the grown-up Spider-Man and says, "I totally ship Spider-Marvel." And it's implied that she, has potentially a ship with Miles Morales. But if Kamala Khan is in the MCU, she could be old enough for Peter Parker.
Well, we'll see whatever weirdness goes on there. As far as the rest of it going on in Phase 4, it's hard to say. With the Eternals coming in, I don't know much about them at all, other than that they are a thing. Aside from that, Monique, you brought up they've got rights for the Fantastic Four again. So you've got that to potentially contend with. They've got rights for the X-Men. We know that universe of X-Men movies is over and done with after Dark Phoenix, and then I think they're planning on releasing New Mutants later in the year. After that, that universe is over and done with.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to give it time, though, because I don't expect anything X-Men related for a while.
You mean like they did with Spider-Man reboots?
Okay, I did not expect they would bring Spider-Man into the MCU.
Neither did I. So quickly, I did not expect it, but they did, and I don't think anything prevents them from doing the X-Men. And there's a good reason I say that. They decided time travel. We're doing what we want, which means possibly we are now in a universe where we've already got X-Men out there somewhere.
What? You were talking about Marvel being OP. Marvel does have a kryptonite, and it's Rogue.
Good.
That would be sweet.
But here's the problem.
My gosh.
Who the heck is going to talk to Jackman?
Oh, wow. That right there. That makes me so happy to contemplate that.
Yes.
Yes.
Because wouldn't that be fascinating if they went there?
Yes, that would be amazing.
Gosh, because that was one
Just
thing
as
that
long
they
as like
could do. Well, they could have done it, but obviously in a very different way in the X-Men movies. But they never had her permanently absorb someone's powers.
yeah. Well, as long as Rogue is still like that Southern belle that can kick ass,
Yeah.
I would be all for it. And my only question is, if they bring X-Men into the MCU, how the heck are they gonna top Hugh Jackman? Just how?
Well,
the casting is interesting because some of the things I've been reading about, like how they picked Brie Larson for Captain Marvel, they wanted someone young so that they can do multiple movies. So it seems like Marvel's getting into we want an actor who can play in 10 movies instead of picking a character or an actor who is the age of the character in the comic or whatever. So you're not.
Or the
my thing is
popular the character is popular at the moment, like right now. I mean, not the character, the actor. Like this actor is an A-list actor right now. We need that person.
No, but what they're going to do is they're going to say, look,
that.
we want someone who's going to be, in 10 years from now is not going to be too old to do this role. So we're going to get someone. So you're not going to get a Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. You're going to get someone who's going to be 10 to 15 years younger. So you're going to get someone who's 22, very young looking.
He has to be like in his 30s at least, because Wolverine has always been older. He's never been a teenager character.
But they're not casting like that anymore. They just don't care, right? Because you're always being told, but that's like your old person days. This is the way things are done now because they want a longevity in their characters.
No. You're right about everyone except for Wolverine. Because Wolverine basically almost doesn't age at all.
Sure.
You actually can't cast a 20-something person as Wolverine and expect him to play the same character for 10 years, because in 10 years he's gonna look different.
Well,
you can cast somebody in their young 30s.
Okay.
And well, yeah, I mean they can use technology and they can age or de-age as needed, but let's face it, that takes time and money.
Tired of it eventually.
Yeah, and that takes time and money.
Yeah.
So most likely, I think they can cast somebody in their 30s as Wolverine and expect them to stick around for a good solid 10 to 15 years. Because especially for people who have the regiment of the health regiment of a popular Hollywood person, you can stay looking pretty much the same from 30s well into your 40s.
Right.
I hope they don't cast Wolverine. I mean, I like Wolverine, but part of what I love about X-Men is the wide diversity of characters.
Right.
And I would like them to take some people that aren't big names and put.
I don't know.
I kind of agree with you.
I'm only tangentially familiar with the X-Men. I only remember like the 90s cartoon when I was like 4, and the characters that stood out to me the most were Rogue and Gambit.
Oh shit, what if they do X Factor? Like not Wolverine, but the female clone that they make of him?
X-23.
X-23, yeah, sorry.
You mean
who knows?
That might work.
No, because they're not going to jump to X-23. If they have X-23, they're going to have an old Wolverine. Because here's the thing. First of all, I agree with you. Like, I would like to see a Wolverine-free MCU for a while, and give some of these other ones a chance to shine. Because one of the faults of the previous X-Men movies was making almost all of them Wolverine movies, or wedging a Wolverine cameo in there somehow, whether it worked or not. Look at it, New Age of Apocalypse, but Wolverine is the most popular character of the X-Men. He's still one of the most popular Marvel Comics characters. They're going to cast him. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. Almost certainly. As soon as they figure out what they're doing with the X-Men, they're casting a Wolverine. Now, hopefully they'll be smart enough to not make him quite so centric. Because for
It's
one,
hard to do.
no one's going to be able to fill Hugh Jackman's shoes, Monique. You're absolutely right. Hugh Jackman is the single reason that they kept making X-Men movies in that universe. He is literally, I kid you not, he's the only reason they did not do a 100% hard reboot of that entire series after it last stand, because he was so freaking good at being Wolverine. If it wasn't for him, they would have rebooted those movies years ago.
That Wolverine movie, where it takes place in Japan. What was that called?
It's
X-Men
called
Origins?
Wolverine. No,
Yeah,
no,
that
no, no.
that movie.
That was just the Wolverine. X-Men Origins took place.
Yeah, the
all over the
Wolverine.
place.
It didn't feel like a comic book movie in
No.
any way for the first while. It felt very artsy, very edgy movie. It was so awesome in the way it was. And Hugh Jackman, pardon the pun, jacked up for that role. There were some pictures of him in the gym. He posted
Mhm.
he was deadlifting 400 pounds.
Holy shnikes.
Yeah. He was serious.
See, this is again, I think another reason why they say like, yes, they hire someone young so that they can have 10 years, but even if the actor still looks young after 10 years, after 10 years, you're like, okay, I'm good. I need to stop bodybuilding so I don't have a heart attack
I
tomorrow.
want to eat a donut. Jeez.
Live forever. Like Chris Hemsworth, he's got a contract for possibly a few more movies, because I was watching something where they said he's got a new contract for a few things with Marvel, so he's got to keep that regimen up.
Oh, he will. He will. He's got
to wear the fat suit over.
You will have the abs back. Don't worry. Their abs are coming back. I
so
fully expect to see them in Guardians 3.
Just so you know, internet, I'm not this superficial.
Normally.
It is Chris Hemsworth, so I think the internet understands.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm usually very, very.
I'm a guy. I get it.
I totally get it.
There's a reason why
I would not feel. I would not feel.
Yes, it's Scarlett Johansson.
Terribly right. I would not feel terribly insecure if if my wife and I are sitting watching a movie with Chris Hemsworth, she was like, he's really good looking. You're right.
Hell yeah.
I can totally admit he's got it going on, man.
He became much, much better when he grew that giant beard, Thor.
Yeah, I don't mind that. It's just that
I do like you said, that we get to really focus on his acting.
Last thing that we can talk about, speaking of de-aging, the last Stanley cameo.
Oh my gosh, so good. That was perfect.
I don't know. I kind of wished that they stopped it. Like
the one at Captain Marvel was my favorite because they had the whole. I wish they at least included him in the Marvel intro as part of the thing. Because
they should have. You're right.
The thing in Captain Marvel is that they had this whole Marvel thing with all the Stanley cameos, and then there's one little bit where she's smiling at him and he's reading his scene from Mallrats, and that was like my favorite. That was like my favorite cameo so far because I wanted him to have some kind of better send off.
No, it was that send off with the Avengers was great because of the bumper sticker.
Enough said.
Right there.
I was like,
that's actually right there. That is the perfect send off for Stan Lee. That was his thing. That and Excelsior. Those were his words, his phrases, and the fact that they just threw that little tidbit in there as a little homage to Stan at the very end of the saga. That honestly he gave birth to the germ of that of the saga we're all talking about. He gave birth to that decades ago.
Okay.
And
I guess it's like
that
makes sense on
perfect.
a metatextual level because it's like if young Stan Lee could see how he is, how things are now, he would be like driving through, being like having the time of his life with that NuffSaid bumper sticker. And I get it. I don't know. I think I'm just not. I don't know. I think I don't know. I guess I just imagined that it would actually be the funeral scene, and instead it's Tony. And I kind of see both, you know, in that funeral scene. Like,
Do you know what I did?
Actually, to see a Stan cameo in that funeral scene, but you know, they can't have it.
Or like at least like it could be a funeral for Stan Lee. Like,
No, they weren't gonna.
It would be.
Right. Well, that obviously that's wedging it in.
Yeah, I know, but it. I don't know.
What were you going to say, Steve?
You know, there wasn't an after credit video for Endgame.
Right.
But I did convince a friend of mine that was going to go see it that there was, even though he had heard that there wasn't. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you have to wait till the end of the credits.
Jerk.
Because it's so funny. They do a musical.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
They do this musical number.
At the end of my theater. Please tell me everything.
I didn't see that.
I completely convinced them that it was such a thing that they did a musical number at the end.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
No, that's the point. He convinced someone that they did.
That they did. So he was like, "Oh, I didn't stay. I'm gonna look it up." And he couldn't find it online, of course, because there was no musical number. So I said it was like the musical number they did at the end of 40-Year-Old Virgin. The age that they were all taking a role and they were singing The Age of Aquarius or whatever. And he was like, really? I'm like, yeah, it was awesome.
Oh my gosh, dude. You're a jerk.
I am a jerk.
That's great.
You had to be careful to be my friend.
I don't think I would be your friend after that. I've had too many moments of people, you know.
Stop toying with my emotions, man.
Yeah. I don't like being seen as gullible.
Oh, that'd be really funny for me.
But how awesome would that have been if they actually did that?
That would have been awesome.
Yeah. I would have liked to, especially since everyone in the cast can sing. I was secretly wishing for like one little musical tidbit moment, because everyone in the cast can sing.
Didn't think of that.
You know, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. sounds exactly like Sting. I wanted them to at least have like a little carry. One of my happy ending pie in the sky things was like, if things ended happily, I wanted them to have like a karaoke party, you know, or like just this party at the end with everybody. And
at the end of Mass Effect 2.
Exactly. I wanted them, or even like the Citadel DLC in Mass Effect 3, that little, just a party with everybody. If everybody lived, you know.
The Mass Effect series, my favorite ever of any video game.
No, I said Mass Effect 2. I meant Andromeda. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't see Andromeda. I didn't get that far, but like
all right. Any other? We're actually 2 hours into this. Actually.
Yeah, we need to wrap this up.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, final thoughts. Monique, go.
See this movie. If you haven't, we have been talking so much about this movie. I think it is going to go down with Return of the King as a great movie finale.
Agreed.
That's what
Steven.
I have 2 words. Fat Thor. That's all. That's it. That's the whole movie.
Cosplay gold forever, baby.
I can't wait for this summer.
Now you got me wanting to go to Toronto's just so I can see that. Okay, Alyssa.
I'm impressed by the writing. I'm excited about the future, and I know some people might be discouraged that the original core have changed, but that has been a huge part of what I liked about comics, was not even the main famous characters, but all the really cool lesser known characters. Mm-hmm. And this gives the series an opportunity to get into that, and I'm excited about it.
Absolutely. This is, I gotta say, it was a great wrap up to what is, I think, I think inarguably the greatest cinematic achievement in history, pulling together all of these movies, all of these characters for 10 years and wrapping up the story in this way.
Long
It's,
live.
yeah, it was just, it was amazing. It was amazing to watch. It's a fitting ending to the saga that we've come to know and love. A generation has grown up with this franchise now, and it's there aren't words actually to properly describe what has been achieved here. I have my quibbles, of course. I always have. I always will. There is no perfect thing on this earth. All things made by man are fallible. But as far as just a great franchise of movies goes, this is pretty darn. This is a high bar, and I look forward to the day when somebody meets it and raises it. But it's going to be a long time.
Yeah.
So if
There
you're one
may
of those,
not be words, but there are two songs that I think can. There are two songs:
okay,
"Long Live" by Taylor Swift and "For Good" from Wicked.
okay,
Okay.
I know neither of those things.
Look them up.
But all right, so again, it's amazing. It's got some of the best scenes I've ever seen on film. Period. There are genuine, emotional, dramatic moments in this movie. It has great. It has good character development within the movie. It completes arcs that have been going on for 10 years. It succeeds on so many levels. Go see it. And that is going to wrap us up for the night. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to this extremely long, extremely spoiler-filled episode of Fighting the Void. Next week we'll be back with Faith Moore talking about Henry VIII and the Tudors and all things associated with that. So we'll be getting a little bit more serious again after 2 superhero-centric episodes. So until then, we'll see you next time and keep fighting the good fight.
Bye.